And when it came time to make cocktails, the boss might say something like, something cool with a touch of pomegranate. Sir, could you be less specific? In addition to highly successful tours, he became the ultimate heartthrob of Mennonite mothers around the globe, swooning at their shows and dropping comments like, I would churn so much butter for that man.
Bye for now, and remember, if you're ever in New Jersey, make sure you hit Dear Maud's Diner for an eclair the size of a 30-pound dumbbell.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.
And now, let's talk about Office Space, the early years.
If the 1960s office was fueled by nicotine, it was lubricated by alcohol. Well-stocked bar carts and liquor bottles tucked into desk drawers were perfectly ordinary fixtures, especially in executive offices. Turns out the hard-boiled private detective pouring himself a drink in the middle of the workday wasn't just a movie cliché. Across the country, middle managers were breaking out the hooch just to get through the budget meeting.
Right, and there was no sacred wait until 5 o'clock rule. For many executives, 5 o'clock was simply when they switched from office whiskey to dinner cocktails. And then there was the legendary 3 martini lunch. High-level supervisors, salesmen, and advertising executives routinely disappearing for long lunches involving multiple cocktails, returning to work basically buzzed and facing absolutely no professional consequences, unable to feel the left side of their face.
Think about that. Giant companies were making major financial decisions while half the conference room would flunk a field sobriety test. Today, if your boss came back from lunch smelling like gin and singing Spin Doctors tunes, human resources would appear out of thin air like a magician.
A lot of industries were government regulated in the 60s, as opposed to now. Now, what does that mean? It means in industries like telecommunications, commercial aviation, trucking, everyone had to charge the same price. So, how did airlines, trucking firms, and oil companies compete for business? Entertainment. Need World Series tickets? No problem. An all expense paid vacation to the Caymans? Consider it done. A blowjob during dinner at the Four Seasons? That's a Big 10-4. In the 1960s office, becoming a female secretary didn't just mean typing, filing, and answering phones. It came with a side role that put personal in personal assistant.
Secretaries were charged with bringing their bosses the perfect cup of coffee and keeping cigarettes supplies plentiful, all while managing both their professional and personal calendars, meetings, lunch appointments, golf outings, the right amount of starch in your dry cleaning. And when it came time to make cocktails, the boss might say something like, something cool with a touch of pomegranate. Sir, could you be less specific?
Sounds like a job for the Wicker Bar. Men wore dark suits, white shirts, skinny ties every single day. No seasonal variation, no casual Friday, just a rotating cast of slightly different ties and varying shades of black and gray. Tie widths became a fashion metronome, and of course, your derby could never match your suit. A gray hat with a gray suit? What are we, animals?
I liked the 1960s cafeterias with the automated meal machines, serving up everything from cigarettes to TV dinners to draft beer to bait for your fishing trip. Red Wigglers, the Cadillac of worms, only 50 cents.
We are the Cadillac of worms. In 1962, the president of the Hawaiian Fashion Guild, and yes, that was a thing, encouraged state politicians to wear Hawaiian shirts to work as a way to promote the local garment industry. Aloha Friday was radical at the time and took a while to catch hold in the mainland suits-only era. I blame Elvis's movies as the key that finally moved the needle.
If you can find them online, some of those 60s articles in Ladies' Home Journal will take your breath away. Have a 3-course dinner ready when he gets home. Maintain your flawless beauty. Offer foot massages. And he doesn't want to hear about your kid pulling the fire alarm at the pharmacist, the weird noise the station wagon is making, or the dude that grabbed your ass at the dry cleaner. Fill my pipe for me, darling.
Okay. Our feature interview this week is with Scott Endres and Spencer Lee of the North Carolina sludge metal band Make. We have a fascinating chat with these two that covers the recording of their new album, Exegesis at the End of Time, and how the band came together after a 10-year hiatus. We cover a ton of philosophical and literary topics, all the while taking jabs at the tomfoolery of social media, and there's a spirited round of blaspheming monikers, so stay tuned for that.
Let's play a song. This is Forking Path. Okay, let's talk about Hope for the Day. Hope for the Day is a wonderful charity dedicated to suicide prevention through community, support, and wellness. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death across all ages, yet it is also preventable. With the right support, resources, and community, lives can be saved.
All right, I'm watching Instagram videos, and at this point, this one keeps coming up, right? It's these super hot 20-something models. It starts they're in their underwear, and then they slowly get dressed in these brand name outfits, right? And they stroll out into a cobblestone street somewhere looking like $1 million for start their day, right? This is not how life is, people. Half the time I'm stumbling out the door in a shirt that looks like I slept in it, while I got a nice cup of hot water because I forgot to put coffee in the coffee when I brewed it. And then I put it on the roof of my car and pull away, forgetting it's there. That's a normal day.
If you or anyone has ever been in that dark, lonely place where you feel all hope is lost, please visit the link in the show notes below and take advantage of the resources Hope for the Day has to offer. I always consider this kind of a thing. I mean, you think you're at wit's end. I had bought a bunch of plants, and as I wheeled the cart back to Home Depot, I realized this lovely yellow petunia had fallen. Not only had it fallen off my cart, it was half out of the pot, laying in shambles on the ground. I even thought to myself, I may as well just throw it out. But I scooped it up, brought it home, used my resources, figured out what might save the plant, may be as easy as a little fertilizer and a big drink, and it is gorgeous out there. So even when you think you're at the end, there are things to reach for that will help you, and you can still process.
He's super perky now. I know the one you're talking
It may look like the end of the line, but believe me, with the right resources and reaching out, you too can also blossom. And always remember, this world is a better place because you are in it.
Speaking of stumbling, I think it's time. Hit it.
And now it's time for Obnoxious Trivia!
All right, you got 19 pages of notes on this one?
No, just two.
Okay, that's a lot. Okay. Okay.
All right, Obnoxious Trivia number 1. Discovered in 1976, the megamouth shark is an extraordinarily rare deep-water species of filter-feeding shark. What is unusual about its mouth? A, it has special teeth that may be for sifting through sand to find prey. B, its mouth contains 3 tongues, one that may suck up prey like a straw. C, it has a bioluminescence around its mouth that may help attract prey. D, it has a combination mouth nose that can blow bubbles hard enough to dig into the ocean floor to perhaps unearth snails.
I say A, the special teeth.
The answer is C. It has a bioluminescence around its mouth that may.
The mouth glows?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's only about 400 have ever been seen.
Right, because they're like super deep, right?
They're very, very deep. They eat exclusively plankton, krill, and jellyfish.
Really cool looking. I've seen videos of them there.
Look like kind of like a gigantic tadpole.
Right, right.
They're found in tropical and temperate waters. Because it spends the vast majority of its time in the ocean's twilight zone, sightings are uncommon. So yeah, they're kind of gross looking, but yeah, their mouths glow, and they suspect that's why.
I can't believe I blew a shark question. Yeah. Anyway,
they're really weird. I don't even know why they call them a shark. They don't even really seem to have.
that's really weird. Yeah.
Really weird. All right, number 2. On February 25th, 2016, a group of fishermen came across a seemingly abandoned yacht drifting off the coast of the Philippine island of Mindanao. When they boarded the vessel, what startling discovery did they make? A gray mummified man still seated at the radio table. B, a stolen nuclear bomb that had to be quickly defused. C, pirate-like chests filled with priceless gems from a museum heist 10 years earlier, along with 2 bodies and an apparent murder-suicide. Or D, no one on board but dinner still cooking in the stove and a strange spacesuit.
I'm gonna go with the pirate chests filled with priceless gems.
It's actually A. It was a mummified man that was still seated at the radio table. They, let's see. The man was believed to be Frederick Fritz Borat, a German sailor. The dry ocean winds, high temperatures, and salty air inside the yacht created conditions that naturally preserved his body after he died of a heart attack while possibly trying to call for help
Wow.
on the radio.
This is why I'm not a nautical person, people.
It's really crazy. That they actually have a picture, and he just looks like he's like
Wow.
frozen. And
I have no desire to have a boat. No, thank you.
lots of people called it a ghost ship, but he was actually mummified in a very quick amount of time due to the conditions.
Bad. Well, they say the ocean's the ultimate desert. Okay, I'm doing great so far.
There's a mummy theme going on here.
Yeah.
Number 3, when scientists examined the 1679 mummy of prominent Lutheran Bishop Peter Winstrup using modern CT scans, what unexpected discovery did they make? A, his writings were under his body, also carefully preserved in scrolls that could still be read after being treated and unrolled. B, the carefully wrapped remains of a fetus believed to have been his unborn grandson. C, a pouch containing several pounds of opium and an opium pipe. D, that he was actually a woman who happened to have a beard.
So weird. I'll go with he was a woman that had a beard.
No, although I made that completely up.
Okay.
It was actually that a fetus was in the coffin with him.
Ugh.
It was kind of a thing back then. They discovered a tiny bundle near his legs. DNA analysis suggested the fetus was likely a close relative, so they were guessing his grandson. The infant appears to have been placed in the bishop's coffin during burial, perhaps so the child could receive a dignified resting place, because there was a lot of religious restrictions. If you were born, stillborn or like through a miscarriage, they wouldn't let them bury the baby because it had never been baptized. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So some nice person probably was like snuck the baby in there so he could have a proper burial.
Well, I'm glad I live in the modern era. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, here we go again.
Yep.
4, archaeologists excavating a Roman-era cemetery uncovered the skeleton of a man buried face down. His left foot had been removed and replaced with what object? A, a Roman soldier's helmet filled with hops. B, a heavy ceramic pot. D, a carved wooden foot thought to be an early prosthetic. Or D, a large fish preserved a large fish preserved with salt, mouth over his leg.
D, the fish.
It was actually a heavy ceramic pot.
Okay, why?
So the man, believed to be in his 30s, was buried face down in an uncommon burial position. His left foot had been removed and a ceramic pot was deliberately placed. Archaeologists believe turned burials and altered bodies were sometimes reserved for people viewed as social outcast criminals or individuals the community feared might return from the dead. The burial suggests the man was treated very different from others in the cemetery. I mean, nothing makes you say, we're absolutely making sure you stay put, than replacing your foot with a flower pot and burying you face down. They took rest in peace very, very seriously.
0 for 4, yes. All right.
Thought those were hard.
This has been Obnoxious Trivia. Yeah. What a shame. I watched The Mummy like 6 times, in my life.
Yeah,
And it didn't help at all. Yeah,
Very mummy adjacent on that.
yeah, exactly.
At least dead body adjacent.
Okay, it's time for our Snaggletoon, and this is called
Shave and a haircut. The Van Dyke beard is one of those facial hairstyles that sounds classy because it was named after a 17th century painter, Anthony Van Dyke. Back then, artists painted dukes, ladies, knights, and queens, and maybe an errant bowl of fruit. Now the Van Dyke is mostly worn by guys that frequent uber-trendy bars, chatting up some chick about their Twitch following and high score and rock band.
You've got the disconnected mustache, the pointed goatee, and a completely shaved cheeks. Apparently, it's perfect for men with patchy cheek growth. Congratulations, sir. Your follicles are tragically insufficient, but here is the fashion workaround. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. made it cool again as Iron Man in 2008. Suddenly, every guy thought, if I employ a manscaping tool, women will assume I'm a billionaire genius. Nope, more like the guy in the green apron calling out half-calf soy latte for Brad.
The chin strap beard is the facial hair equivalent of putting racing stripes on a Honda Civic. It's basically your beard saying, I am framing this face like a face curtain. Traditionally, the chin strap is just a thin strap of beard wrapping around your jaw like your face was outlined with a Sharpie because you passed out at a party. It's one of the few fashion statements shared by both Henry David Thoreau and the late great Wayne Static. So whether your credo is avoiding a life of quiet desperation or simply, I'm with stupid, the chin strap has got you covered.
The imperial beard, also known as the I need facial hair styling time allotted in my morning routine beard, this look traces back to 19th century Europe, where status was often communicated not through words, but how aggressively your facial hair could channel your net worth. Really, you can sum it up with what looks like a giant W drawn across the face with a bare chin. Lemmy Kilminster didn't just have facial hair, he developed a look like a Civil War general crossed with a British cowboy. What he wore was basically the friendly chops variety of the imperial, also called a chop stash. Older fans of the band will remember indignant listeners prepared to riot in the mid-90s when Lem went, egad, clean shaven. True fans of the band stuck around despite the awkwardness of hearing Love Me Like a Reptile delivered by a TV evangelist.
Speaking of strange beards, in the late 2000s, James Hetfield opted for the beard known as the Shenandoah. Just one big gray tuft on the chin and no mustache whatsoever. In addition to highly successful tours, he became the ultimate heartthrob of Mennonite mothers around the globe, swooning at their shows and dropping comments like, I would churn so much butter for that man. Speaking of unusual facial hair choices, can anyone explain David Letterman's look of late? Heroin skinniness and a lengthy tangled white doormat hanging from his chin. I wasn't able to find a name for this style online, so I just went with the crack house Grinch look.
Finally, there's the stubble beard or corporate beard. It's the great lie of facial hair. It looks effortless. It's basically a carefully edited illusion that says, oh, I forgot to shave, when in reality, this is a highly coordinated growth strategy with maintenance schedules and precision equipment. Think George Michael. Think Bradley Cooper. Think men that make enough money to have a beard team that could rival a NASCAR pit crew. Beards, really? Beards. We have hit rock bottom. Appalling. Let's play a song. This is Make with Chimera.
Fun with facial hair.
Okay, let's talk about Home Chef, and I think you have some very things here.
I do. I didn't save our card from this morning, but they're always putting together things that I would not.
God, that thing you made this morning was great.
It was a chicken quesadilla that came with diced chicken, but it also had like a chili lime seasoning as well as a fresh lime.
One more thing it did have, though. Peas. Oh, shut up!
They had peas that we put in,
Oh,
and
shut up.
also curry. I would never mix.
The curry was good.
Yeah, I would never mix a chili lime with curry.
No.
It had a jalapeno in it. I did add a little onion. Of course, you can customize. based on the
Yes,
taste.
I can't wait to eat the rest of it. I'll probably eat it tonight.
So anyway, Owen continues the great meal ideas from Home Chef. Also coming later this week, we have a butternut squash and fig mini flatbreads. Do you have any figs?
Figs. Let's go on the neighborhood app. We can get them. We can get them on the neighborhood app.
So did customize this. I added some Italian sausage, so you can customize it with any protein you like, or just go with the figs.
And even peas. Shut up.
Peas in a quesadilla. You never
Crazy.
would have thought it.
Yeah.
Crazy. Anyway, they give you step-by-step instructions. Even on the front is your plated version if you're into plating things. Also, we have a white wine chicken scallopini. I'm sure I will be
Adding some red wine?
beating a piece of chicken into
That
oblivion.
looks really good.
With
Looks really good.
thing. It also has with roasted zucchini and carrots. I might be getting out the veggetti for this. Who knows? I'll get a little crazy. In addition to that, we have a service where we get a free item, and I did get you those apple dumplings again.
Is that what that is?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think we have some. It's
If it's apple, I'll eat it. Yeah. So.
Anyway, use our link. You can get meals you prepare from scratch like this. You can get oven-ready meals. You can get something in between they call express. I've got you the breakfast sandwiches the one time. They now have breakfast sandwiches. They also have desserts, smoothies, pretty much anything you could want delivered right to your door. Use our link. It will save you off your first batch of delicious home chef meals.
Yes. And now it's time for Bombastic Plastic.
Bombastic.
Okay, we're going to talk about an album that Stace actually bought in the 80s. Remember that?
Yeah.
What happened to it?
I don't know.
But I thought you said you had to leave your
Well, when we moved, it probably was with the stack. For some reason, when we lived in Ocean Pines, I had a lot of my records in the attic.
Mhm.
And when we moved out, it was kind of a hurried move out thing. And I forgot about the stuff in the attic.
Oh, God. So, but the good news is it's been reacquired, and you'll see what a gorgeous version this is of Angel Dust's Into the Dark Past. Ever notice a growing trend and wish it would just stop? Like every few years, I had to speak out against some trendy new word or phrase that means nothing. I got so sick of hearing, dude, this album slaps, that I actually put up a protest. Okay, so how long are we going to keep up with the slaps thing? Can we agree that it's run its course? So, of course, what did the internet do? They replaced it with something even worse. Dude, Imagine Dragons go hard. Okay, first off, they do not. And second, I should have kept my mouth shut about slaps. Another trend, sometime in the late 90s, I remember actresses like Helen Hunt and Cameron Diaz were starting to irritate me. Every movie had the tank top and the push-up bra look. I was like, can we find an actress with some actual tits? Even worse, you got the AT&T girl, Milana Vaintrub. She's signing a contract with AT&T to cover up and de-emphasize a perfectly good pair of 32 Fs. Heresy, I tell you. Unleash the Thaetas.
Finally, there's the most recent trend in movies and TV. Some sort of Hollywood plot to spotlight men as sulking, cuckolded crybabies instead of strong males. That Napoleon movie from a couple years ago was ridiculous. The man nearly conquered the world. I don't think he could have done that if he was sucking his thumb in the corner all his life while his wife called all the shots. I had to go home and watch Braveheart 4 times to clear it out of my system.
Yeah.
By the late 1980s, thrash metal had been entirely retooled, largely due to the Bay Area thrash scene. The riffs got tighter, the production slicker, the drum tones more Americanized. It was like all the bands were trying to crank out the next Master of Puppets instead of what they did years prior, create their own unique take on Venom.
It was during this time that I discovered the Teutonic debut from the German band Angel Dust. And yes, they are named after a Venom song, very appropriately. The riffs, the vocals, the unique approach to production took me back to the mid-80s classics like Artillery's Terror Squad, Sodom's Obsessed by Cruelty, and Razor's Evil Invaders. Produced by Harris Johns, the German Svengali, responsible for classics like Creator's Pleasure to Kill and Halloween's Walls of Jericho. Into the Dark Past consists of 8 songs, most in the 5 to 6 minute range, and every single one of them packed with stunning riffs, wild tempo changes, and the glorious bark of singer and guitarist Rame Keemer. From the very first eerie notes of that bizarre piano intro, it's clear that this album is a horse of a different color. I'll Come Back soon tears out of the blocks with a cracking, crunching, galloping riff, full of majesty and headbanging delight. The syncopation between riffs and lead fills delightfully blurred as the song charges forward. Kamer offering lines like, "You said I'm no one without your help. I'll show you soon that I'm not your fool." When the guitars fall away around the track's midpoint to emphasize the cruising double kick speed of Dirk Asmuth, it becomes clear that the inspiration for this opener is likely and ironically Metallica's Fight Fire with Fire. It's followed by an absolutely gorgeous harmonized solo from Keemer and Lowrum.
Gambler kicks off with a majestic, Dio-adjacent riff and a markedly different guitar tone, very retro-tube oriented and delightfully reverby. Azimuth introducing almost a power meadow tempo. Of course, it doesn't stay there. About a minute in, he explodes into a thrash pace, and the band introduces and reintroduces something like 3 different riff variations. Nobody does that. Let's hear a little. Let's play a clip. This is Gambler.
Gambler, you are playing with fire. Sorry.
Another standout track is Atomic War, kicking off immediately in full guns a-blazing speed, metal hell, lyrics delightfully simple. No one knows how it will be, in disaster and disease. Atomic War, delivered via a marvelous stop-start charge. The pop snare and the thud of the kick come through glorious old school, and this is another one packed with at least 3 riffs and cycling through multiple slight changes, rifflets, thrilling beyond belief.
I think it's the first or second Living Death album, also German. We used to sit around and like laugh at the lyrics. Like the first line of the album is, "My heart is burning hot, but you love me not." It's like, get somebody to translate, you know. I highly encourage everyone to explore the full discography of Angel Dust, as these crazy Germans went through multiple lineup changes and style changes. Like the later stuff has more of a Sabotage vibe to it. But the quality of the music pervades. So the next time you're at a festival and you spot 19 people wearing Viking hats and waving toilet brushes on a 96-degree day, don't bother your pretty little head about it. Just remember, there's plenty of quality 80s metal out there for you yet to explore. Let's hear Atomic Raw.
See the light of progression, talk to the witches, God, from the sun of submission, fiery rain is falling, no one knows how it will be, disaster and disease, atomic war, destroying the souls, destroying the life, much of night, much of dawn.
Okay, interesting interview.
This was our great chat with Make. Really got into this album. It's got incredible dirgy spots. It's got crazy guitar. It's got philosophical stuff in
There's
it.
a lot of literary stuff too. Yeah.
So we had a great time with these guys. Stumbled a lot of my own literary influences and your musical influences.
Well, yeah, but literary wise, I'm chopped liver. So I don't know. Literary to me was the biography of the pagans. So anyway, take it away.
Anyway, so I was really glad you were new to me, but I know this is your first album in 10 years. How long was the writing process? Did it kind of spread out over that decade, or was it something that came together more recently?
It was recent. The 10 years was truly 10 years away from the band. Well, I should say most of that 10 years. The last year and a half to 2 years, we had got the band back together and had been writing. The recording happened pretty much a year ago from July 4th or July-ish.
Mhm. Yeah, we finished on the 4th of July because we had all those fireworks out.
That's right.
Mhm.
What was the reason for the 10-year break? Was it just like life happens or?
That's exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it just a really terrible confluence of events.
Yeah,
And-
we
Yeah,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, we had written a kind of a follow-up record to Pilgrimage in a style that was completely new to us, and we had booked a session to record that album in I think very late 2019 or early 2020. Our drummer at the time had to bail on the recording sessions because he had some family stuff he had to attend to, and sort of right after that, COVID happened, and then like from there, we tried this ill-fated side project all together that just didn't really wind up panning out. Just a lot of stuff where as people, we never really took a break, and we never stopped playing music together regularly or anything. But you would, there's just no indication that Make was an entity between 2019 and 2025.
Yeah. I also got laid off twice in that time and had to move 4 times. So a lot of it was just like, getting through to the next day. There wasn't really a lot of time to think about. But yeah, I mean, once we came back, it was very clear that a lot of time had gone by. It wasn't
Right.
exactly like we had to start from scratch. But whatever's as close to that is kind of what it felt like,
Yeah.
reminding people that we used to exist.
I love the word excasis, referring to drawing meaning out of a text rather than imposing meaning on it. This was something I would have jumped right on in college.
Yeah.
Given your title of the album, is it kind of acting as a final interpretation of humanity's story? And looking at kind of human civilization, what would be your general verdicts?
Yeah, well,
Man.
so the verdict is in the idea that I had for naming it that, which was that, and it's kind of the theme of the album just in general, which is that there is a great potential in humanity. The human condition is almost that there is always massive potential that is always being squandered by people that have more power. And to think about all of that potential that is not being reached, all the art that's not being made, all of the literature that's not being written, all of the ideas that are not being disseminated, that we eventually get to a point where those things can't happen anymore. Or if they are, they're falling on deaf ears, or there are no ears left to hear them. And that is about as damning of a review of, you know, the state of
Mankind.
things.
Yeah.
And I think mankind is fine. It's just that the systems that we collectively and historically have decided to run with are anti-mankind.
Yeah.
Like feudalism and capitalism are, pick your poison. They're both there to
Right.
oppress people for the benefit of a very, very small number.
Right. No, understood.
Yeah, it's been all over the news that these scrolls that they found in Pompeii years ago, they finally have the technology that they're trying to use AI to read them and this, that, and the other thing. And all I could think was maybe there's some original ideas in there for a new movie because nothing's original anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, maybe the one stone left unturned. Yeah, give us some more movies.
Right.
That's
I
funny. That's
do like that we're seeing these young directors popping out, making movies for a very small amount of money and making a lot of money, like talking about Obsession and Backrooms and even like Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. There's just a lot of stuff coming out that didn't cost a lot to make, is doing really well, and probably showing Hollywood that, yeah, maybe we can pump the brakes on the remakes and the Marvel slop.
So I do love that your logo replaces the A with like the Greek lambda symbol, which gives a slightly altered, almost deconstructed appearance. Given the literary themes, was that kind of an aesthetic choice, or does it reflect something about the identity of the band, and does it change the pronunciation?
No, to that last thing, because someone did that to us once without asking us. And then we had people coming up and telling us that our band was pronounced muck.
Oh my.
No, at the very, very beginning of the band, so we're going way back to like 2008 or 9. I don't know where it came from other than a childhood and adolescence of drawing in notebooks instead of listening in class and drawing band logos. On a post-it note, I just drew what became the logo. And I don't know, I'm very into minimalism. So, I think probably all that was going on in my head was what is a cool way I can make this word look interesting with a minimal amount of design. And I loved the symmetry of it. So really the symmetry, between like the empty A and the M, the way if you turn it vertically, it should be like I don't know if it's mathematically correct, but that was sort of the intention, was just to make it symmetrical. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And then Scott, it looks like you handled the artwork for this album. Is it like a labyrinth or a maze? I can never decide which is which or the definition there.
Right.
It's either, however you want to think of it. I So a very long time ago, another thing about our logo, our first drummer who I worked with, um, he was goofing around on Photoshop, and I looked over and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" He was cutting up the logo, and I watched him. He was placing he was cutting each letter out, and then he was placing all of them on top of each other. And in the end, it created what kind of looked like a pentagram. And I thought, oh, hey, that's really cool because A, it's not a traditional pentagram. So we don't look like we're just chasing, a demographic that we don't really,
Right.
aren't necessarily trying to be in. But B, it still kind of looks like a pentagram, which is sick. And so we have, kind of called that the Make pentagram over the years. And, we sell pins with that logo. The logo can be found a bunch, all over our stuff. And when I was thinking about the record, there's a song on it called Forking Paths, which is based on a Borges short story, which has a very labyrinthian structure to it and philosophy behind it. And I, again, I don't remember exactly what was going on in my head at the time, but I just had the idea. The idea popped to me. And so I pulled up in Photoshop the pentagram logo, and then I drew concentric boxes over it. And then where the lines of the pentagram are, I would kind of at random delete space. So if you squint your eyes and you look at the cover art, you can see the pentagram in the empty spaces. And also the other thing I will say is just a little bonus. I knew people were going to call us out if I didn't make the maze actually solvable. So it is a solvable maze.
I have to get my pen out for that one.
Well, someone in the comments of Angry Metal Guy said it was very easy, so don't get your hopes up.
So what made the Philodorium? Is that the right place to record this album? What made you choose there to record?
Yeah, the Fidelatorium.
Fidelatorium.
Yeah, so that studio it's been about an hour away from us for a very long time, and has a real history to it. It's run by a guy named Mitch Easter, who played in a band around here for a long time called Let's Active, who are of some
Oh, I know
note.
them.
Yeah,
That
and
was that's REM adjacent. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's he produced the first few REM records, I believe. We didn't work directly with him. He is a super nice guy. He came down and sort of checked out the sessions and everything, and it was really great to have him around. But we were working with the producer who has made our last few records, a guy named Chris Hilbert, who I have known since we were teenagers playing in punk bands. And we just have a really great chemistry together. He has an excellent ear for what we do, and he has a really great knack for being able to tell when we're not happy with something and propose changes that we never would have thought of because we're just too close to the material. So we knew we wanted to do it with him again. He'd moved out of state, but we got in touch with him kind of half jokingly at first. I think Scott sent him a really funny message and said like, "Hey, if you want to make another record this summer, we're down." And he was going to be in town. The studio that he had run before the pandemic shut down during the pandemic, so he could go back to grad school. But he had worked out of the Fidelatorium before and really liked it, so he proposed it, and it really is it's a fantastic studio.
Yeah.
Right now, it's a little bit in flux. It seems like the status of the conversation about it changes week to week, but the thing that I have heard is that it's possibly going to be sold. I really hope whoever winds up buying it does it justice. If if anybody is listening and plays music and is anywhere near North Carolina and you have the opportunity to record there, absolutely do. The pricing is not exorbitant, but it's an incredible studio and it just feels great to be there.
Yeah. A really, really welcoming space.
Like, what are some specific things you might remember from this album that Chris suggested that you, drastically altered a song or a vibe or something like that? All right, so at the venue there was some kind of like a plumbing problem, so they like chained off the restrooms. They're closed, right? So I had to go outside to piss.
But what did you end up doing?
Well, I found this empty parking lot. It was behind a fire station, right? So I pick a corner and I start to go. All of a sudden, I feel myself being like lifted up off the ground mid piss, right? So I turn around. I'm standing in front of these three angry firemen.
So, what happened?
Well, apparently, oh hi.
We know you're here for a mega chat with Make, but just a quick aside. We do interviews like this every week on Snaggletooth Decay.
Like our epic discussion with Angus Nera from Earn that covers everything from their potential album of the year to the evils of rubber bands.
Our discussion with Steve Rathbone of Lair of the Minotaur and what prompted their unlikely reunion after a near 16-year hiatus and Maryland Death Fest appearance this year.
Yep.
So don't forget to subscribe today so you won't miss a single Mark and Stace interview. And now, back to me.
Right.
This album happened pretty naturally and very quickly.
Very quickly.
It's almost like a live record. We did very little almost no overdubs, very little tracking. Outside of the vocals. And so there wasn't a whole lot of that on this record. The one thing I do remember that he did on this record, though, is I was adding a lead part to the end of Forking Paths, actually. And I like to leave a lot of this stuff unsolved before heading into the studio. And by that, I mean just not written at all, not even thought about other than, oh yeah, I'll probably try and do some like extra tracking, and that's with every record. And I just love the idea of music happening in the moment and then capturing that. So I was doing a thing and it sort of wasn't quite working. And Chris just said, just do single notes. And that ended up being what's at the very end of Forking Paths. And he was totally right. Drastically, though, on Spencer, was it Golden Veil?
Yeah, it was Veil. It's the last track on Golden Veil.
Was it the last song? We had this whole section, and I don't know.
At least 5 minutes of music, probably more.
And I think we were listening back to it, and we were unsure, and it was Chris who turned around without even knowing that we were unsure, and was like, "Guys, I don't think this is working." And so we were like, "All right, that's all we needed to hear." And
literally, like that song, we were trying to figure out how to go from a particular riff to the same riff in halftime. And instead of just doing that, for some for some reason, we felt like we had to add like somewhere between 5 and 6 minutes of going around our elbow to get to our asshole on it. And it was there was this moment of like, yeah, Chris turned to us. He was like, this isn't really working. And we were like, yeah, we've all been kind of weird about this. And he was like, well, what about this? And he literally just cut it and smashed the two riffs together. And that's how it is on the record. It was like, dude, that's what we should have done the entire time.
That's all. I'm so glad Spencer has such a better memory than me. So hearing this, I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah, that's how that happened.
Yeah.
Mm.
Was there any one sound in the album that really took a very long time to come up with the way that you wanted it to sound that listeners might not pick up on?
That's a
Hmm.
good question.
Oh shit, my voice, because I was trying to I I never I usually wait until the very last minute, which means in the studio before I write my actual lyrics. That means that every live performance I've been singing took like literally nothing, just bullshit. And but what I've got is the rhythm, the cadence, like the essential notes of it and the way it's going to sound. And I had been doing something in the first track, The End of the Night, that I always thought was working live. And we'd get little clips, people send you stuff on Instagram that they filmed after they see you. And I'm like, oh yeah, I think that part's good. And I couldn't pull it off in the studio. I don't know what was going on, but I blew my voice on the first night.
Ugh.
And I was really worried about that. But I completely changed the way. Oh yeah, and that was a Chris suggestion. He was
Mhm.
like, "Why don't you just sing that like you sing the rest of your stuff usually?"
Mhm.
And I was kind of like, "Oh, but I like the way." And then I did, and it ended up working, and it really saved my voice for the rest of the session.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like your vocal variations. Sometimes it's like your like wake style where it's two of you like trading yells. Then it's like forking where it's very at first just almost kind of like monotone and muffled. And there are other times when it's like completely unhinged. Do
Yeah,
the lyrics or the music drive what kind of vocal style you end up going with?
Spencer
For
has a more
sure.
varied style, so you should answer that.
Yeah, they certainly do. The kind of like Scott said, for really for all of us, vocals are the last thing that kind of come into focus for any given song or record. Which is not that like I don't feel like we treat them as an afterthought, but
No.
it really is. I guess it's kind of the opposite. It's something where like we develop the music with a theme in mind, and we want to make sure that the lyrical presentation of that theme is as developed as it can be before we set it in stone. And that involves a little bit of spontaneity as well, because a lot of the time we are kind of doing it at the last second. Historically, I start writing my lyrics 5 minutes after I'm supposed to start recording them. But for this record, I actually I sat down about a week in advance with some of the demos that we had done for the record, and I really wanted to have more going into the studio than I had in previous years. Part of that was logistical, because on previous records, the way that we had done sessions was we would start by doing a anywhere between 2 and 4 day session to get basic tracking and some vocal work done. Uh, Wait a few months to listen to the music and kind of figure out what we wanted to add to it. Go back, do overdubs, corrections, additional vocals, and then usually after like another like 3 days of that or something, it would be just about done. This time we didn't like we kind of shifted around how we worked on this record, knowing that Chris had a very limited availability to work with us being out of state. So instead of doing the kind of multiple studio sessions for the recording, and thanks to some very, very smart help from our friends that I play in another band with, um, they like our practice space is now rigged up so that we can get pretty solid, demo recordings of anything that we happen to do in a given practice. And so we used that process as kind of a stand-in for the period of have something down and listen to it, figure out what it needs. And we went into the studio this time with, I think, a much more developed idea of what each of the songs was and what the record was as a whole. And I wanted the lyrics to kind of reflect that as well. So sorry, very, very long-winded on that, but the the vocals definitely, like, as we're going through writing the songs, I'll have moments where it's like, okay, I want to have a vocal section here, I want to have a vocal section here, I want to have a vocal section here, be kind of working on the themes in my head as we have kind of talked about them in writing the song. Like, we'll sort of develop a working title for a song and sort of talk about like what we want the subject matter to be. And for this record, I sat down about a week in advance and started, writing, which is unusual for me, but I am really happy with the results on it. And yeah, basically what it came down to was like the questions of like, okay, what sections of the record need vocals in order to stay interesting? The sort of quieter part of Forking Paths, where I'm singing, is like I love the music there, but without some kind of vocal movement or guitar lead or something, it would feel very repetitive. And so working vocals into that section, the question is like, okay, well, what suits the music? I kind of like for a little while was thinking about trying to do kind of like a black metal shriek thing that was buried in the mix to a degree that it would actually suit the atmosphere. But pretty quickly moved off of that. And for that section in particular, what I really wanted to kind of evoke with the delivery on it was the just the absolute exhaustion of life. The that song in particular, The Garden of Forking Paths by Borges is kind of considered to be a literary progenitor to the concept of like quantum timeline theory, the idea that every decision is an inflection point that splits time in different directions. And there's an infinity of realities that exist, and you are in one of them. And the I really wanted the delivery in that song to kind of like evoke both the exhaustion of the main character in the novel, but then also the exhaustion of knowing that we live within that the context of virtually infinite possibility, but then sort of tying into the rest of the record, feeling like that infinite possibility is just constantly undercut by the sort of drive for power and capital. And so yeah, that's generally the kind of stuff I think about. That one was very intentional. The only vocals I did for the judge were in the kind of middle section, the patron saint of violent death part. And I very intentionally waited to do that song last because I wanted my throat to be really ripped up for it and like make it sound just absolutely insane. And I think that paid off too. That's a fun little section.
Definitely.
I'm really impressed by how careful and methodical you are. I'm going to use this as an example. I have an ongoing battle. Like I said, I'm one of the Jedi Council over at Rate Your Music.
Mhm.
There's a faction that says that the reason why modern metal isn't as good as like 80s and 90s metal is because Geddy Lee and Buck Dharma didn't have to come up with social media content every week, And I'm just like, you're out of your fucking mind. I have millions of stories of bands that we've interviewed that are very methodical, that they give a shit about every part of their music. I mean, TikTok and Instagram have not made modern metal any worse than
Yeah.
back in the day. What do you?
I mean, those things are kind of a cancer, and we actively avoid them. Like, you will never see us farming for engagement. Like,
Right,
we will
right.
post our reviews, we will post show clips, we will post things that are relevant, but we're never going to be like, hey, fam, guess what I was doing? Like, that's never going to happen. You're never going to see us on TikTok. I think
Right.
that type of shit is really debasing, and I think it does probably distract bands from actually doing interesting things. Uh,
Right.
but you're right, not everyone in 2026 is doing that. Like
Well, I mean,
every single thing
where are
that,
your priorities, right? Where are your
yeah,
priorities? Do you want
yeah.
more followers,
Yeah.
or do you want, an album you can be proud of 10 years later?
And
That's
many
kind of what it is.
people want the former way more than the latter. So,
Right.
Kind
And
of.
likes and follows are not money. That's the part that I can't get over, is somehow social media convinced us that this is some sort of currency
Fucking
We're not paying
dopamine is a
we're not
currency.
paying the bills with likes, people. I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And supposedly, the more likes you have, the more seriously people take you. I don't know. I like kind of really the way I look at all this is kind of flipped, I think, from how a lot of the people that you're talking about look at it, where like I don't think that social media has made bands less interesting. I think social media has made very uninteresting bands more visible.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, they're willing to play the game of engagement farming because they have nothing better to do because they're not spending their time writing good songs.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know if you know these bands, but I have to say this. There's a band called Unto Others. It's one of my favorite bands. They're
cool.
they're like goth metal. We saw them live.
They were great.
They do all the Thin Lizzy 1972 back to back, holding the guitars up,
Hell
harmonies.
yeah.
It's great, right? This band called they're opening for this band called Castle Rat. That have you heard of Castle Rat?
Yeah.
On social media, I've seen.
Yeah,
clips.
the whole thing is that she wears like a Princess Leia bikini on stage and they have sword fights and shit. Their music is dog shit, in my opinion, right? And I'm just like I was incensed when she showed me the flyer. I'm like, how is this fantastic band opening for this dog shit Instagram crap?
The way
Like it's
it
just,
is,
that's
man.
just
Yeah,
the way it is.
that's the way it is. Everybody is chasing the algorithm. The algorithm is God. And dude, when you talk about the fact that we were gone for 10 years, we came back and we were like, what the fuck is going on?
I'll
Yeah,
bet.
What
I'll
is
bet.
this?
Absolutely entirely different. Even like from literally the step one of logging into your Instagram account, just everything about how to operate logistically as a band has completely changed. And it's still a shock that we're kind of getting over in doses.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's just, I think Spencer said it the best, one day when I was really kind of lamenting over this. And he was like, you know what? Like, we're just going to keep playing to all the people that still do care about the right thing.
Right.
That there are still those people left, and we will continue. I mean, we will always do this for ourselves, first and foremost. But yeah, to think about an audience, I have no interest in playing that game. I mean, the being in a band has always been scummy enough with people like chasing the dream and all that nonsense. It's always had that, but now it's just like that has taken over everything.
Yeah, like I can look around at a festival and I can be like, all right, I'll get along with that dude in the bullet belt, but the guy dressed as the squirrel, he can fuck off. What is that all about?
Oh, somebody's funny.
Yeah. Clicks, probably what it's about. Like, if you don't
Yeah.
know, it's probably about clicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they want people to take pictures of them and put them on Instagram and go viral.
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, crowd surfing was dangerous. Like, at Lollapalooza and at,
For
Monsters
Spencer,
of Rock
too.
and stuff like that. I mean, now they once you're up there, you've got your phone going. It's part of your feed.
You're delivered safely to a security guard.
I mean, it's that all the danger's gone. I mean, I came
Yeah.
home with bruises all over my ass. Like.
Don't get me started on what passes for punk these days.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
love that doom and sludge metal has always explored themes of suffering, decay, isolation, dark corners of the human's existence. I love that you take it a step further by weaving in all those literary and philosophical influences. I took a lot of philosophy classes in college because I thought the teacher was incredibly hot.
Hey, there you go.
Good reason as any.
disclosure.
Like a Greek god. I was in the front row.
Sure, yeah.
But
Learn something in the
I
process.
learned ipso facto a lot of good stuff. So what drew you first towards those concepts? Was a particular class, hot professor? Well, that was me. A book, a documentary, or just something about reading and curiosity?
I got into literature at a very young age, and then I was an English major until I dropped out of school to go be a bohemian in a different state and city.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I like that.
No. Look, I had my dad's blessing, and that's really all that mattered to me. I was like, I'm dropping out of school to do this, and he was like, cool. I wish I could have done the same when I was your age. That was all I needed. I don't regret any of it. But yeah, so literature has always been a huge, huge, huge part of my life. You can ask any of my friends who have helped me move over the past 3 years, 4 times, moved 4 times. And my buddy Pat at one point was like, Scott, why do you have to be such a fucking nerd? Because everything is just books. If you came into my house right now, it's just books. That's like the only furniture I have is like bookshelves. And I just get really excited while I'm in the middle of something that I think is you know really brilliant. And if it reaches a level of brilliance in my head, I get this feeling like, and it's very hard to describe, but it's almost like I wish I could consume it and have it be a part of myself. So taking that on and bringing it into my own art, translating it, adding to it, whatever, um, it's very cathartic for me. And so, yeah, pretty much all of the songs on the record were just kind of like what I or Spencer were reading at the time. Um, and I think we just kind of realized that there was a connection between all of them. And Spencer, you speak very eloquently on that point, so I'll pass the mic.
Um, yeah, I am woefully underread. I really like literature and I like reading, but I'm very bad at making myself do it. But I had read a good handful of books that I loved. I got very much back into reading during COVID when I didn't have to go to work every day and could just read. But a lot of what I wind up reading is pretty dry political theory text, political history stuff. I went to college for sociology, and so that just it I didn't really understand what sociology was, and I started off trying to take political science, and like at political science 100, I was like, this is bullshit. I hate this. What are we doing? And I found sociology very quickly and got very into it. And so I tend to get really excited about literature, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, that really delves into some aspect of the human condition. And the the when we started writing this record, it wasn't really super clear to me, but when we got it all put together and I was sitting there before going into the studio looking at the lyrics that I had written for the record, it just really like kicked me in the face how all of these different authors are that have wildly different contexts. The Society of the Spectacle, for example, is a text. I think it was published in '68, sometime in the late '60s, maybe, by a guy named Guy Debord, who was a French situationist, which was a sort of sect of communism at the time, and is a very heady, esoteric, but nonfiction and ostensibly political text about uh, the idea that the forces of state, capital, and mass communication have coalesced into their own sentient entity that knows how to control the flows of capital and social dissent in such a way that it can sort of absorb them and then regurgitate them as things that are ultimately supportive to them. Like to make kind of a crude example, if you're going to a protest and you buy markers and cardboard to make a sign, you gave a store money for those markers and that cardboard, right? And there are all kinds of different ways, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with representation in media, which I do think is important, like Scott said, but I think that there are ways to cynically manipulate that into something that is presented as a message of social justice, but ultimately is a cash grab. And I think Guy Debord spoke to that really well. On the other side of the literary spectrum, you have like this sort of like kind of I may not be correct about the movement of this, but like sort of almost magical realism of Borges, and then like the sort of modern westerns from Cormac McCarthy, like all of these texts are from these wildly different times and places, but they all kind of tap into a very similar idea about how human beings have this incredible potential that is constantly being undercut by power, or people with power, I guess I should say. And there's something about that that really like it solidified to me like, oh, we've finished writing this record, and we have hit on a concept that is even more compelling to me than when we started out, thinking like, oh, well, let's examine these authors and sort of see what they have to say, and sort of speak to how we feel about the stories that they've written. It really became a record of examining all of these different authors mashed together in a way that felt like it still fit. Something about it just felt very organic, and that through line is really inspiring to me. That idea that like, nothing that we're talking about is new. Hopefully, we're doing it in a way that is new and interesting. But these concepts have been around for a very long time, and there's something that feels comforting about that in a sense.
The struggle has always been present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stace was always the literary one. She knows all the great works of literature. She's actually read them.
I read them to him sometimes on long
I
trips.
completely bullshitted my way through English class. Like if I got called on,
Mm-hmm.
I was probably doing work for like calculus class that was next
Sure.
that I hadn't done, right? And the teacher would just call on me, and they would be she knew that I hadn't read the material, and I would say, "Has anyone thought that maybe the gun stands for male virility?" And then everybody would be like, "Oh my goodness, I never thought of that." And I'd be like, "All right, back to my homework."
It is the one subject that you could probably, if you're witty enough, bullshit your way
bullshit
through.
your way through. Well, I couldn't
Yeah.
bullshit my way through calculus class, and that was in 10
That's
minutes.
exactly
So I had
right.
to, get back on it. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I found out I used to work kind of this mindless job where we were just posting EOBs all day. And it was like, everybody had headphones in. And I found out audiobooks, you can listen to all the classic stuff for free. Well, I
That's-
went into the Count of Monte Cristo. I did all the Dickens. I did all the Pride and Prejudice, Jane Eyre. That was like my day, right?
I do a
And
lot
then I
of
started.
audiobooks.
It was great. Where's the Doom song about Miss Haversham? What a great character.
We're on it.
Hell yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm into that.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Still sitting there in her wedding dress with the wedding feast all covered with bugs.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was writing on my books, "Perish in flames, die in hell." That's what the stuff I was.
Indeed.
So you guys have become a four-piece again, embarking with John and Aaron. When did you know going back to a four-piece was the right direction for the band? And kind of how did you guys come to work with them?
So we had a really massive falling out with our previous drummer, who was our second drummer. And the first person, like top of mind, was someone that I've known almost as long as I've lived in the Triangle. John, and that's John. He was in a band called Caltrop, way back when I was doing like the first band that I had in town called Sons. And he actually played I always forget that he played drums for the very last show that my band Sons played, because our drummer had already pieced out of town after the show was booked. And I think more importantly, though, he plays bass in another band with Spencer, and Spencer had told me right before the falling out with our previous drummer that John told him, "I'm really itching to play drums in a heavy band again," because he plays bass in this other band with Spencer. So as soon as the falling out happened, I was like, "Spencer, ask John. Ask him if he wants to be the drummer for Make." And Aaron was in the side project that was born out of COVID. And It was very important to me because I knew, like, Aaron has been struggling because his wife has Lyme disease, and it's just very, very tough for both of them. And it has brought both of their quality of life down significantly. And I knew that bringing him into that side project gave him something he could actually like look forward to every week. And he's one of my closest friends, and he's just awesome. And he's knowledgeable. He's a great musician. His previous band is called In the Ear of the Pig. They're like one of the most beloved bands in the Triangle. Very Melvins kind of worship with two drummers. And so, yeah, immediately after I sent the message to Spencer about John, I sent a message to Aaron like, "You want to be in Make?" And he said, "Let's fucking go." And that was it. Yeah.
If you had to order pizza, could you all get the same one, or would it have to be different toppings?
Ooh,
I like that question.
That's a good question.
Probably different because no one ever. My favorite shit is getting green olives on a pizza, and that is not a popular choice.
I don't love olives in general. I've come around to them a lot more recently, but I'm also generally pretty go with the flow. I feel like we could probably all like get a pizza and share it, even if even if olives were in play, maybe. Really, my big no is pineapple on pizza. I won't do that.
I'm right there with you. And there's
Okay.
always the fucking guy
I
that's
mean,
got to do that. There's
if
always
that's
a
what
guy in the
someone
office.
ordered and that's all that was there, I'd be like, "Fuck, all right." But yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
I would not be happy about it.
Just real
Really
quick,
for-
but I don't want to forget to tell you this. All right, so we interviewed Steve Austin from Today is the Day a few
Oh,
months ago.
hell yeah.
Yeah, and he tells this great story that he was super sick and he had no energy and he was going to all these special doctors and nobody could figure out what was wrong with him, right? So then he noticed that his dog was starting to have symptoms, that his dog didn't have any energy. So he takes the dog to the vet. The vet figures out that the dog has Lyme disease, and then he says, "And I think so do you." And it turns out he
Huh.
did.
No
How
shit.
crazy is that? He got a diagnosis of Lyme
kidding.
disease from a veterinarian.
Well, that's good
That's
that he's still
wild.
out, like being active.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That shit can be no joke. It has rendered Aaron's wife, our friend Emily, she had to get on disability and then it had
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
quit her job, and she sleeps like a lot, like against her will, and it sounds really, really awful. Huge Today's the Day fan, by the way. Just
Yeah,
as
yeah,
an
yeah. I mean, it's
aside.
great. Yeah,
Um,
and yeah,
we
he
got
said
to
like the
play
vet
with
was like,
them.
the dog has yellow eyes, and so do you. I think you have Lyme's disease. It's
Yeah.
it's
Oh man.
crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the
Yep.
first shows that we played after coming back after 10 years was with Today is the Day, and we were over the
Cool.
moon because I've been a
Yeah.
fan since I was like 17. And I
Yeah.
actually got to tell him that, like, also, like, while they were playing, he's like high-fiving Spencer and hugging him. And I was like, I can't believe I'm seeing this happen. And
Yeah,
then,
he's so great. He's so
I've
great.
never
Yeah.
felt so honored. It's
yeah.
incredible. What a sweet guy.
And I just went up to him after things were kind of calming down, and we were all packed up and ready to go. And I was just like, "Hey, I want you to know that I've been a huge fan since I was a teenager." And oh, the reason it happened, he was because I was saying like, "Hey, we're going, like, nice playing with you and all that." And he was like, "I really like that one song you did," and he sang my riff back to me, which was like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, "Look, man, I'm not gonna lie, that song might be a little bit of you coming out of me." And then I told him how big of a fan I was, and he just kind of hung his head and looked at me and was like, "Man, I'm really humbled." And
Yeah.
it was just such an awesome moment.
Yeah.
Rad dude, rad band.
Super rad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Absolutely.
I love that a lot of your titles are the spectacle or the augur. Is that kind of to make them seem a little bit more like a character or a
Yes.
chapter?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we kind of had the idea very early on as a band to kind of write songs about like not necessarily singular characters sometimes, but like kind of nebulous
Archetypes.
characters. Yeah, exactly, archetypes. And we felt that like that sort of title scheme really did a good job of kind of like nailing down the idea before getting into the subject matter a little bit.
Yeah. And it was one of those things that once we landed on it, we just kind of we I don't want to overplay it by saying we fell in love with it, because I don't think we ever even really talked about it that much, but
Yeah.
it became like very normal for us to think about song titles in that fashion. Spencer's gonna laugh at me because he knows what I was just trying not to say. Um, Sorry, just a little inside joke between him and I. But yeah, yeah, the idea of having archetypes. I'm very into a lot of Carl Jung, and the way that he speaks about archetypes, I think, is really interesting and an important, thought experiment. So yeah.
I think we had a few track specific questions.
Yeah.
I love the opening track, the end of the night. It feels like the beginning. I love the way you take the time and build that atmosphere. It kind of maybe is a nod back to your Space Doom roots with all the synths flying
Part of it
around
is like
and
the
blips and
like the opening credits of a movie. Or
yeah.
something. It almost seems.
When you're writing music like that, are you thinking kind of in terms of making like a sonic painting? Because at one point it's almost like dawn
Was it like
breaking.
7 minutes before the first vocal
Yes,
or
it's
something
like
like that?
7 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sonic painting is a good way of talking about it or thinking about it. I always think of, you know, stuff like that as like sound collage. For one, it's just especially particularly Spencer and I, we've been playing music for so long, like almost 2 decades, that we just vibe together really well. And I think the reason we're still in a band, the reason that we started the band and stayed with it is because we musically finishing each other's sentences kind of thing. And so that stuff comes really, really easy and naturally to us. And I think because that was the first song we wrote as a 4-piece after the accidental, unintentional 10-year hiatus. And I think it was because it's very easy for us to write that way. So that was kind of like an easy way of dipping our toes back in the water. And then also, I thought it would be a very appropriate way of reintroducing ourselves instead of busting through the door like Kramer,
Right.
build it up a little bit. And I love
gotta
that
hear
you guys appreciate it because not everyone does. And we knew it would be potentially alienating to start, to announce ourselves as a loud, heavy band and then start off with like 6 or 7 minutes of very light sound.
Yeah,
No,
going
that's
back
something
to
that's something that I've gravitated towards since I want to say I was a teenager and I got a copy of Scorpion's Lonesome Crow. And I was just like, I was like talking to my friends and they didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. I'm like, do you realize that there's like 9 minutes before the first vocal in this song? And they're like, Mark, you're out of your mind. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, that's so not commercial. That's never getting on the radio,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
someone criticized us for that recently and said, well, this is not a thing to do for streaming. It's like, we didn't write this record to be streamed. Like, we are not
That
thinking
was their
that.
criticism. This is not streaming conducive. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck off. Like
It's, the algorithm is really rotting people's brains.
Yeah.
yeah. Like you're in the studio and you're going, wait a minute, is this streaming conducive?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, do you think
Right.
everyone's going to love this? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, is my art good enough for TikTok? Like
Right. Oh, of course. Yeah, that's the priority. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no, the broccoli hair didn't like it. Okay.
Oh my God. But I love it later on in that track when it takes off and the guitars dissolve into this wonderfully warped, kind of unhinged chaos.
Yeah.
It sounds like everything's coming apart. How did you manage to create that guitar tone? Because it's very distinctive.
Well, Spencer has a very distinctive couple guitars, for one. The
Although
other,
I don't know if we used them for that track. We may not have. That might all be you.
oh yeah, okay.
I don't
Well,
think I did any dubs in that section.
A less usual thing for me to do is to actually be near my amp and cabinet during the recording, but I specifically was in the closed room with my amp, just trying to get as many insane, ugly noises out of it as I could. And yeah, That's the orange, baby. It's a good sounding amp.
Yeah.
It's great. For some reason the whole song reminded me of a book I loved as a child called The Phantom Toll Booth. It's this boy who he's bored and he drives through this toll booth and ends up in a completely different world. And everything's very literal in this world. And he finds this guy and he's this maestro. And every night he conducts this orchestra. And as he conducts, like the stars all, the sun sets, the stars all come out. And then he goes to sleep, and then the boy tries it. And that's when it's like everything was unhinged and crazy. And then he has to finally go back in at the end and be like, no, 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 and like set everything to right.
It's awesome.
I don't know why that made me think of that.
That was great.
So
I
you
love
were
it.
talking about it, referencing the novel Journey to the End of Night. Kind of how did that novel sneak in there?
Yeah, it's a weird one because the author has a very checkered past. Not when he wrote that book, but he would later, get into Nazi shit.
Hmm.
And so it there was a bit of trepidation from me about including it, but I thought it was important because A, it's a tremendous and important work of fiction. And I think you can agree with that while disagreeing with who he became later. I think it's also important that we continue to be able to separate the art from the artist or what they did at this point and what they did at this point. I don't think that throwing the baby out with the bathwater is necessarily a good idea ever when it comes to art. But thematically, it is intentionally an incredibly pessimistic look at the human condition about how we are being oppressed. We know we're being oppressed, and we know when we wake up tomorrow, we're still going to be oppressed. And that, I think, was just something that we had to explore in the context of all the other works of fiction that are all studying aspects of the human condition.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that is the only text that we kind of cite for the record that I actually haven't read. But the assignment felt like, oh, hey, talk about how exhausted I am with the state of things, and that I was like, cool, that flows. Let's do that.
Yeah. If you're ever not sure on something like that, just remember Bowie got away with wearing swastikas and everybody thought it was art.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sid
Yeah.
Vicious.
He completely got away with it. If anybody else
Mm.
did it, it would have been heresy. But because it was Bowie, it was like, well, it's art because he's wearing swastikas.
Yeah. I mean, Leibach's entire career is like
Yeah.
Yeah.
aping
Yeah.
fascism,
Totally. Yeah.
playing in
I
North Korea. Those guys are silly.
I love the fact that you guys list two bass players. I some of my favorite bands, honest to God, are like Year of the Cobra. It's just bass and drums. It's just I
Yeah.
love the heavy of it. On a song track like the Auger, did you actually have both basses going or were you trading off? Because that's such low end on that.
That is, I think, the only song on the record that actually has both of us, both Aaron and me, playing bass at the same time.
That's not fair.
Yeah, usually he switches over to bass when I am playing guitar on a track, and he'll play synth when I'm playing bass. But that particular song, so the most of the writing on that song, we actually did before the pandemic. That was the first probably 6 minutes of that song were the first that amount of time of the record that we had planned on recording when that session kind of fell apart and then COVID hit. And ultimately, that material, I'm glad we didn't release it as it was because it wasn't ready and it didn't really work for us. But there are a lot of parts of it that I think are great. Like I'm glad to have them in the canon so that we can go back to them and glean from them as we want to. And this song was, very much that we were kind of thinking about it all together and not super intentionally, but we were at practice one day and we were kind of figuring out how to configure ourselves around this song with an additional member. And we were thinking like, well, like synth doesn't really quite feel like the mood. Let's just put two bass players on it.
And I was
Um,
very adamant that Spencer not play guitar and play his original bass line
yeah,
because I had like one of my favorite things about that record that was never actually recorded and released was Spencer's bass line in that part of that song. So yeah, it was that was got to keep them
yeah.
both.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm very happy with how it came out. I yeah, it's been kind of funny. Yeah, I have two bass players and one guitar player, and you've got like an almost rhythm bass and a lead bass. But it thankfully it didn't wind up getting too muddy and like just kind of overpowering the whole thing.
You know, Spencer, it's funny. I never really even put this together, but Aaron's totally used to that because in the year of the pig,
Uh-huh.
bass players. So
I never thought about that, but
he
you're
knows how
totally
to
right.
maneuver in the low ground.
Yeah. And yeah, realizations.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think if Guy Debord could come forward and into the future and see junk like TikTok and people doing what I eat in a day as a fat girl? What would he think about that?
Think you would say
He,
I told you.
yeah, absolutely. If you're ever curious about reading The Society of the Spectacle, it's all over the place online for free. And it's sort of a mid-length book, but it's broken down into chapters that are anywhere from a couple of sentences to maybe a page and a half long. And each of them is kind of a separate thought about what the spectacle is and how it derives its power and maintains itself. So in a weird way, for being so heady and esoteric, it it really is a very digestible book. Um, and I really recommend everybody at least give it a shot. There were moments the first time that I looked through it where I was like, "What the fuck does this mean? This sentence is word salad." And then I would get like a couple of paragraphs later and be like, "Hold on," and like go back and read it again and be like, "Oh no, this makes way more sense than it should."
Yeah.
And the really like kind of the genius or part of the genius of that work, apart from how it describes a very real situation, I think, in terms of our sort of global socio-political milieu, is how it breaks down and sort of conveys that information. And literally everything that the guy wrote about was like not only true, but is like it's that kind of thing where like you ever watch like a TV show from like 15 or 20 years ago and someone will be like, hey, you know, your phone's listening to you even when you're not talking into it, right? And they're like, fuck off, you conspiracy theorist, you wacko. But like now we just accept it because it's obviously the
Yeah.
truth and has been verified in court filings and everything. It's kind of the same thing. It's a lot of like looking back at someone who like was probably shouting out into the woods for a long time, but wound up being absolutely right. So yeah, I don't know. Probably would feel sadly vindicated.
It's like 1984 wasn't too far off, was it?
See,
No.
No.
you said that, and I thought Lars about Napster. See, we went to two different places.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking Lars.
So I also love your visualizer for the judge. It's just this wonderfully warped and almost looks like it's deteriorating film that really complements the song's mood. Where did the idea for that come from? Was it from you guys or a director or a fan?
Our good friend Kellen, he is part of this movement that was born during COVID. A bunch of film editors who are all stuck at home with the rest of us created this scene that's kind of generally known as vaporwave. And the idea is you have a person that captains the project, and usually it is taking a known film and then giving it a theme. So, for instance, you've got Mrs. Krautfire. So it's a waved Mrs. Doubtfire that is set entirely to krautrock. And each person will do what's known as a seg. each editor that's involved. And each editor has their own art style, their own, but basically it's kind of like the visual equivalent of music, of circuit bending in music. So you're taking analog and digital equipment, fucking it up, getting the craziest effects that you can get out of it, and then, just layering that. And I can't speak to it because I don't do it, but Kellen is a part of that scene. And our current drummer has done some of that stuff with Kellen. So the second we thought about having a video, that was like the first thought that popped into my head was like, oh, I fucking love what Kellen does. I love that entire scene. Like, if he's down, that is absolutely what we're going to go for. And he did the best job, because the last thing I want to do is be like, it's 2026 and I'm making like a black and white Morbid Angel looking video. Like, I love Morbid Angel, and that shit was great when I was little, but like, that's not now. And I don't
Right.
also want us to be like, hey, check it out, we're playing music, right? Like people know, they know they're
Yeah.
listening to a band.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, the Scott turned me on to the vaporwave thing and told me about Kellen's involvement in it. I had met Kellen, I think very briefly a long time ago, and didn't know him super well, but was interested in what this was. And from the first time seeing any of this, I was like, I want to figure out how to do music with that. It was an instant like, I think this is incredibly cool. Whatever way that we have to do that, I want to do it. And funny enough, when the idea of a video got brought up, I did not think about it at all. And then Scott mentioned Kellen. I was like, oh, that's obviously the answer, 100%. Yeah, like the way that these people are working with avant-garde film editing is just wildly inspiring to me. I think it's super cool, and it really is an honor to be able to work with Kellen. He did some projection visuals for our album release show as well that were just fantastic. I love what he does. I love what that whole scene does, and yeah, just very honored to have anything to do with it.
It really needs like art upon art.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
All right. So also I had a question. I loved the judge. I couldn't quite figure it out. Is there an actual judge, or is the judge kind of more of an abstract force, like your conscience or history?
It's kind of both. So it's based on the character Judge Holden from Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. And there is endless debate of like, what does his character in that book represent? And I think probably between the three of us that sing on that track, we probably have three different interpretations or ideas of what he is. But it's not good. He is not a force of good. And to me, I like to think of him as, well, Spencer, I know that you've said he to you kind of represents the uncaring nature of the universe. Like that the universe isn't on your side. It's not against you, it's not on your side. It's just there. And to me, I also think that the judge felt very much like a representation of like humankind's capacity for transgressive behavior and evil. And unfortunately, I can't remember Aaron's take on it all, but I think a lot of the debate is fairly packed in around those ideas.
Yeah, it really, yeah, what Scott was talking about there really spoke to me as well, where like he's kind of this embodiment of cosmic entropic violence, and also an embodiment of the human propensity for violence. And what really kind of speaks to me, and I think all of us in our lyrics make references to the fact that he's always dancing. he does a great job of representing a reality, and that's not bound to politics. It's just sort of the nature of the universe that can do incredible violence without even caring about it. Not having any volition, or there's no spite to a volcano eruption, but it can absolutely destroy a civilization like Pompeii. The idea that we exist in a universe that absolutely does not care at all that we're here. There's nothing out there. That to me is like kind of this double-sided coin where like it's liberating in the sense that we have no one to answer to, and we except for each other and ourselves, and we can really do whatever we want as long as we can find the way to do it as people. But there's also this other side of that coin that is incredibly brutal, where if the universe decides that it's done one day, it's just done. And there's nothing that we can do about it. That duality is very interesting to me.
It reminds me of a line, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's from Exorcist 3, where George C. Scott says to the priest, "We have rape and we have murder and we have mongoloid babies, and your God goes waltzing blithely through the universe like some cosmic Billy Burke."
Yeah.
I love that movie, by the way. That's probably my favorite
God,
Exorcist.
I always tell
Really?
him and Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
I've only seen one. I need to see two
Oh,
and three.
dude, it has one of the best jump scare. Well, it's kind of a jump
it really
scare.
does,
but,
yeah.
oh my fucking God, dude.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's grown in popularity over the years. Like people have come to recognize it as a true classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
He may or may not have a huge poster of it in his office.
I mean,
I'm just
George
saying.
C. Scott, come on, the Royal Hospital of Overacting. Everything is bravado. Come on. Anyway. Oh, but you want to ask about TV judges.
Oh, yeah. So, on a lighter note, do you have a favorite TV judge? Are you Judge Judy, Marilyn Milan, or maybe all the way back to Wapner?
Wapner.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Judge Judy, big time Judge Judy. I used to watch Judge Judy with my mom. Oh man, yeah, totally.
I'll go with Judge Judy too, just because of the line in Arrested Development when they say Judge Judy and executioner.
That, and also like some guy named Judge Judy made $1 million last year, and I've never even heard of the guy.
Before he died, Norm Macdonald had this short-lived show, and
Mm.
she was on it, and it's probably still on Netflix, and she is totally in love with him. You could just tell when he talks,
Cool.
she's like, wow, like, and you're like, wow, Judge Judy, she's in the norm. Wow,
Man,
It's interesting.
that's
All right.
I gotta watch that. That sounds incredible.
Yeah. All right. So we play a game on the show. It's called Blaspheming Monikers. Okay. And here's how it works. I have 5 band names in front of me. One of them is fake. And I want you guys to try to guess which one of these is not a real band. Okay.
Cool.
So we'll just keep guessing until either you get it right or I run out of bands. Okay. All right. Hang on 1 second here. Okay. Lord Master, Beach Master, Idol Master, Confusion Master, or Not My Master. Which one of them strikes you as fake?
Man, I want to say Beachmaster because that's really silly.
I do too, but I feel like that it's supposed to be really silly because who would call their band that? Maybe Not My Master? I mean, that feels like it has to have been a band name somewhere, but I've never heard of a band called that.
All right, so which one do you want to go for?
I don't know. What do you think, Scott?
I find myself unable to move away from Beachmaster.
Cool, let's go with that.
No, they're real. They're Doom from Nevada. They have
Oh,
one full
shit.
length. Yeah, one full length and 2 EPs. So, all right, so that leaves Loadmaster, Idol Master, Confusion Master, and Not My Master.
Well, Spencer, let's go with your top choice then.
Yeah, Not My Master?
Groove Metal from Texas. They have 1 EP,
Ah.
but they are real. Yeah,
I'm so
Alright.
sorry, guys, that I don't know
Yeah.
that you're real.
that's all right. So then it's a Loadmaster, Idol Master, and Confusion Master.
I feel like Loadmaster sounds the most real to me.
Yeah, Idolmaster too. Like I feel like I've heard of them, but now that I'm thinking about it, just uh, and Confusion Master could totally be like a kind of
Master of Confusion.
mm, uh um yeah, maybe Loadmaster. No. Maybe Confusion Master. Maybe that's the one.
Sure, I'll agree to that.
Sure.
Sorry, they're stoner metal from Germany. They have 2
Really?
coins. The one I made up was Idolmaster. They're not real.
No
So,
kidding.
yeah.
Ah, man, I could have sworn I was like, as you were reading them off the first time, I was like, I feel like I've heard of that band. That must be
Idolmaster. Well, that's because it would look good on a patch. You could just
it would
picture
look good on a patch.
Yeah,
I
like
suppose a
Idolmaster.
master that's not doing anything is not a great band.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is he doing?
Yeah.
He's just standing there.
So you guys are talking about, you cited Borges and McCarthy. Which author which make the best doom metal frontman, do you think?
Ooh.
Oh,
McCarthy's
man.
up there, even if just for his like prose.
You know,
William S. Burroughs, just bring a fucking gun.
no. I'm gonna go with.
Oh, he's going to the archives. Here we go.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad. My office is also I call it the library because it looks just like that.
Yeah, we can't do the Kindle or whatever. It has to be a real
What?
book. Yeah,
I hear you.
yeah, an
I'm
actual
the same way.
something you can really read. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a library in here, but this is my workshop that looks like a bomb went off in it. That is mostly full of half disassembled amplifiers and pedals and stuff like that. I do a little bit of work on that kind of stuff on the side.
Wow.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of surgery.
It's
All right.
it is, but it's a lot of fun.
This is my choice. Russell Banks. You can see how big it is, how chunky it is, how long it is. That's very doomy. This is a very long book about a sort of fictional account of John Brown as told by one of his brothers. But it's not a good time. There's a lot of strife throughout this book. So that's my pick.
So do you have any shows or festivals planned? And do you plan to do you have to rework some of the older material for the newer lineup?
We've been, yes, to both of those, but we've been doing that. Spencer and I have always tried to keep some of the past in the present. And every now and then we'll just say, man, it's been a long time since we played this live. And we could say that about a lot of songs, but we'll take like 1 or 2 a year usually and have them reworked for live shows, for the real heads that remember. And yeah, we're support for Wayland Storm's record release, which is coming up next month. And I believe that's July 19th.
Yeah, that's right, I think.
And then we are playing September 10th at the Hopscotch Music Festival that happens every year in Raleigh.
Yeah, no, I don't think we have any details on the Hopscotch set yet, except that it's happening.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll be the guy in the Viking hat with the toilet brush. Yeah.
Cool.
Sick, dude.
The sounds of decay!
Anyway, so Sounds of Decay 1 is the new album from Thaetas, The Irredeemable Age. Redeem. I used to travel quite a bit for my job, and I found myself tangled in the world of frequent flyer miles and hotel points. The numbers were really curious. I'd get a notification that I had like 13,000 Southwest points, but when I tried to use them for my next flight, they'd say I needed 84,000 more to book the flight. But you can purchase more points. What the hell is that? Why would you buy points? Just pay for the flight. My boss was a nut when it came to points, right? So we'd have like a meeting. We had to fly out to Minneapolis or something, some city that Southwest didn't service, right? Rather than book another airline, he'd fly to Chicago and then drive the 400 plus miles just to keep the points. I'd get to the hotel like a full day before him. I love teasing him because I'd be like, look at that. The points that you saved got you a free bottle of water. Congratulations. Mazel tov. I'm also convinced that the credit card points system was thought up by the same guy that came up with skee ball tickets. 1,900 tickets. That's great. You have enough to buy a pencil eraser from the gift shop. Thank you for playing.
Which brings us to the Irredeemable Age, the second full-length from New York City Tech Death 4 piece, Thaetas, that just dropped yesterday on the Profound Lore imprint. Their album consists of 9 songs, mostly in the 3 to 4 minute range. It's been 6 years since their critically acclaimed debut, Shrines to Absurdity, but fear not. This thing is packed with brutal and unpredictable percussion, dissonant guitar experimentation, and cupped mic vocals you can feel in your chest. Daytime Lantern is an interesting selection that shows the band's eclectic taste with harp-like acoustic intro that lulls us temporarily before the band explodes in metallic violence. Vocalist Corey Monster shows off 2 vocal styles, the wolf and an impressive witchy scream, used quite conservatively. The track cycles through blasting speed, angular skronks and squeals, and several guitar solos, one of which is rather jazz-adjacent and a refreshing slice of something different. Let's play a clip. This is Daytime Lantern. The final cut, Digital Locust, is the longest cut on the album, and I can only assume it's attacking bots or maybe just annoying TikTok videos. The song kicks off with a hard-charging pulse, very much in the style of Suffocation, which alternates with a thrashy second pattern for the first half of the song. Guitarists Terrell Granum and Pat Hawkins sprinkle in all manner of harmonic squeals at various intervals, the track eventually slowing down to a marvelously doomy tempo, giving drummer Nick Krivto a chance to make us all dizzy with slews of fancy rolls.
Fans of brutal death metal that don't mind a slight touch of the avant-garde should do themselves a favor and get over to Profound Lore's website. Reserve a beautiful blue-swirled vinyl copy of this beast before they're all gone. If you're in an adventurous mood, try using your credit card points. You've got 11,006,003, almost enough for a new potato peeler. Let's hear Digital Locusts. Okay, Sounds of Decay 2.
This is Morgal, the Seventh Circle. If you are somehow unsure of what kind of black metal Morgal plays, there are a few dead giveaways. First, take a look at that album cover. A demon in perpetual torment, chained and impaled by no fewer than 4 flesh-rendering meat hooks, screaming from what appears to be the very pit of despair. He's permanently engulfed in flames, burning alive and yet never consumed. If that isn't your first Zoink Scoob clue, I don't know what is. Then there's the stage names adopted by these 4 Finnish shaggy-haired hellraisers. SX Exiler, Crusher, Killhammer, and Tomb Necrofiler. Those aren't exactly the names of a band singing songs about me and you and a dog named Sue. Still not convinced? Their Instagram bio literally spells it out in all caps. Satanic Metal. In case there was any lingering confusion, their Instagram handle doubles down with Evil Morgal 666. At that point, you can relax knowing that you're definitely in the right upside down cross church. Now you just have to find the right pew.
Morgal returns after a 5-year silence with her sophomore full length, The Seventh Circle, while expanding to a quartet. Second guitarist Jasper Jokinen and founder Crusher Tavi Perkinen and mainstay drummer Aleski Walgren to further thicken an already imposing wall of riffs, while new bassist and vocalist Nico Kumpalainen, better known as Tomb Necrophiler, adds another layer of menace. Together they throw together shovels of coal right into hell's furnace, crank the thermostat to eternal damnation, and punctuate the whole affair with the obligatory maniacal laugh. We get one intro built around a Frankenstein-style lightning storm, complete with tortured laments and dialogue that sounds like it's being spoken through a lungful of swamp goo. From there, Morgal launches into 6 tracks, each clocking somewhere between 4 and 6 minutes, all steeped in a frantic pitch-black atmosphere. A standout track is The Damned from the Seventh Circle, which for some reason makes me think of a postcard from hell. The Seventh Circle is Dante's neighborhood reserved for the violently wicked, so don't accept an Uber Eats driver to be dropping off ice water anytime soon. Instead, I picture scorched postcards drifting up from the underworld, their edges charred, smelling faintly of brimstone, with Damned from the Seventh Circle scribbled across the back beneath a return address that simply reads, Lower Hell.
The message may say something like, the weather's still unbearably hot and the neighbors moan all night, and the Minotaur is impossible to talk to. Wish you weren't here. Or perhaps it's signed with something delightfully unsettling. Always watching you. Head. Musically, the track opens with high-pitched guitar whine that slices as sharp as a razor and quivers faster than a quartz crystal, soon joined by another shrieking line that sends spine tingles like wayward fingernails on a chalkboard. The drums of SS Exiler are a punishing blur of flailing limbs, while the bass throbs underneath like a thick and bouncy as cellulose gum. Tomb Necrophiler's vocals arrive as one bitter venomous ball, the kind of spit that sounds capable of causing third-degree burns on skin contact. Crusher tears into a guitar solo that wiggles and squirms like a maggot baking in the summer sun before those piercing guitars come wailing back, the drums permanently set to kill, apparently having misplaced the brake pedal somewhere. Beneath vocal passages, the guitars fire off daunting high-speed oscillations. The percussion rages on. The glorious cacophony keeps racing, squealing, and scraping as Tomb Necrophiler continues spewing vocal filth like a backed-up sewer line. A second cleaner guitar solo eases off the accelerator ever so slightly, with longer sustained notes, while the accompanied lead continues its rabid, high-pitched shudder in the background.
Gang chants suddenly erupt over drum bursts that chatter like a Tommy gun. A bright, clear guitar melody comes stumbling into view, spilling notes faster than the beans in the Real Housewives of Orange County, before settling into a triumphant repeating phrase. Finally, the drums ease into a still brisk lunk, 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 while the guitar continues to warble and slowly fades into blackness. Another favorite is Blessed in Hell, whose title sounds like it could be a second weird postcard from the undead, containing nothing more than a cryptic message, Blessed in Hell. Just those 3 unsettling words scrawled across smoke-stained cardstock. I also think I need that on a t-shirt, because it would make the perfect counterpoint to those people who walk around in shirts that just say blessed. At any rate, the song immediately places us under the rumbling kick drum fire of SS Exiler. During the verses, the guitar riffs bunch, reel, and ricochet at string-breaking speed, while the drums somehow find an even higher gear. Tomb Necrophiler's echo-drenched snarls ride atop of violent ocean swells of squealing riff cycles. When the chorus arrives, the guitars settle into fitful chord shifts, while the rhythm section pummels forward with all the subtlety of a rock'em sock'em robot fight with no time for defense.
By the midpoint, the drumming has become so unhinged, there's absolutely nobody riding this Himalaya yelling, faster, faster! The guitars dance with an impossible jig across a floor that suddenly turned into lava, hopping note to note with frightening precision until they lock into a melody. Then Crusher ignites a solo that plays out like a jackpot on a slot machine, showering the room with notes before melting into long, wah-soaked bends that begin to sound like trembling laments. By track's end, we're back to razor-tight tremolo picking, drums ranting without mercy, and vocals spewing enough alkaline rage to strip paint. But there's always time for one last blistering solo with more noodles than a vat of angel hair pasta. Or perhaps I should say devil hair. The drums never relent, finally punctuating the chaos with a few last rapid fire rolls. Let's play a clip. This is Blessed in Hell.
I think my favorite track might be Goddess of Death. If you go looking up Finnish death goddesses, no less than 4 appear, but one of the most fascinating is Queen of Tuonela. In Finnish mythology, she rules the underworld as a strangely courteous host. Souls arriving in Tuonela are welcomed with the infamous Beer of Oblivion, a drink said to erase memory entirely. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Just ask Don Henley. I like to imagine a postcard from that place reading, "Free beer here is great. Quick question, do I drink the worms like tequila?" The track opens with a crusher alone peeling out diabolical rapid-fire guitar lines. The rest of the band leaps in like a jump scare. Tomb Necrophiler locking in a satisfying low-end bass crunch like potato chips crushed into a sandwich, while SS Exiler adds flurrying rolls that quickly escalate into full blast beat splatter. The vocals sound as if they're leaking straight from the unfortunate demon on the album cover. The howl's so vicious it actually makes you feel a bit sorry for the unfortunate beast. A few tightly bunched guitar strikes in triplets tee up the verses. From there, the guitars begin wrestling for supremacy, each riff trying to outpace the other, flanking and rolling until the final one finally breaks free and sprints for the exit in a high-pitched squeal.
There's a brief pause where the drums gasp for air and the bass shifts like small earthquake rumbling before everything snaps back to dueling guitar lines racing at breakneck speed, barely stopping to breathe unless you count the occasional swine-like squelches cutting through the chaos. The guitar lines briefly morph into something resembling bagpipes, played at too high a speed. The drums take a short surf-tinged detour before snapping back into full-kit violence. After a blood-boiling scream, the guitars suddenly slow into bittersweet harmonies that almost feel reflective. The rhythm guitar crunches back in while the lead sails into a solo that treads on and on like an overworked bagged cheddar factory. By the end, it's all hands on deck again, guitars vibrating like bee wings, kick drum hammering, shrieks unfurling like black smoke from a raging barbecue. One chord hangs in the air, suspended, but they aren't finished yet. A final guitar solo kicks in, chopping away like a fork scrambling eggs while the drums clunk away. In the end, Damned from the Seventh Circle delivers exactly what all its clues promise. Satanic black metal, firmly on brand and executed like veterans of the scene. So that's the trick Morgal pulls off. This is more than just brutality, it's a fully operational hellscape with its own soundtrack of screaming guitars, blistering, oozing vocals, and relentless percussion. By the time the final letter is delivered in my imaginary Postcards from the Edge Infernal Edition series, it might read, "Still trying to find the passage back. The music and the mosh pits are great here, though. Fans of Hellripper, Goat Whore, and Necrophobic will find the accommodations here to be 5-star. Just mind the hellfire and the meat hooks." Let's play a clip, Goddess of Death.
Okay, Sounds of Decay 3 is the new album from Grim Legion, Harbingers of Death. What is it about New Jersey that makes it such a breeding ground for great music? Whiplash, Hath, Incantation, Blood Feast, the Danzig Bands, T.T. Quick. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I think I know what it is. The diners have got to be the key. You know, those killer restaurants ensconced in aluminum with the jello cubes under glass and the mini jukeboxes at every table. You've got to respect an establishment with a menu that has more pages than the Codex Gigas. You want breakfast? Our Spanish omelet will change your life. In the mood for a burger? We got 19 to choose from. Duck l'orange, beef Wellington, scrapple. I'm sure our chef can whip something up. Do you want cheese on that?
You know I do.
No, I do.
Whatever the reason, it would appear we have discovered yet another winning moniker in Amanda Plan's 5-piece death metal outfit, Grim Legion, about to release their second full length on the hallowed HGPD label July 10th. The album sports 10 songs across a very vinyl-friendly 33 minutes, and with titles like Suicide Salvation and Descend into Hell, it seems obvious this isn't exactly odes to the Hare Krishna. Guitars crunch, vocals wolf, tempo shift, and double kick patters. Onions are caramelized. Wait, sorry about that last one, but you get the idea. I was back in the diner. Slaughter of Kings creaks out of the gates on a bona fide Sabbath riff. The 3-guitar tandem of Randy Cavanaugh, Devlin Bain, and John Paradiso swirling together at a marvelously doomy pace. Drummer Ryan Donato bashes the skins mercilessly, uncorking all manner of ride cymbal wizardry without upping the tempo. Bain's vocals are a subsonic wolf of monstrous proportions, describing this royal lynching in excruciating detail. Sort of reminds me of the newer Autopsy stuff, but a tad more polished. Let's hear a little. Let's play a clip. This is Slaughter of Kings.
Found Dead finds these three uncorking a severely wounded riff to start things off for the first few bars, but Donato soon finds the gas pedal, and we're treated to Grim Legion at maximum speed, alternating the thrash adjacent with the hyper-blasted segments to marvelous effect. Bain seems to dig deeper for this one, really trying to find his inner Chris Reifert gear. This one turns out to be a true guitar bonanza, with all three of the Outlaws uncorking wild, colorful leads to show this is a band with plenty of musical tricks up their sleeves. So get over to the HGPD Bandcamp page and grab this nifty t-shirt and CD bundle. I may personally opt for the trucker hat because I already have 6 and I never wear them, so why not make it 7? Bye for now, and remember, if you're ever in New Jersey, make sure you hit Dear Maud's Diner for an eclair the size of a 30-pound dumbbell. Let's hear Found Dead. Go. It happened. Fatang.
The Doom Festival was very worth it, but it put us very behind, and we did not expect the software glitch that put us another day behind.
It wasn't our it wasn't our fault, baby.
No. Anyway, we're back in rare form this week, as I will have plenty of time to get stuff done this week.
Yes, we are.
And the 4th of July is this week. This has been the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast. Special thanks to the gang from Make for appearing on the show. Snaggletooth theme by Gustav Jord of The Fleshed. Sounds of Decay theme by Steve Rathbone, Lair of the Minotaur. Sounds of Decay bands, Morgal, Grim Legion, Thaetas. All content 2026, the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast.
Sorry, we're all out of turkey gravy. How about cheddar cheese on that?
Fuck. God damn it.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.